But joining us right now, even yesterday, the president mentioned the Holocaust in his speech. I've been critical of the speech, but I just point out that he did mention the Holocaust. And, there are fewer and fewer survivors of the Holocaust, and there are more and more Holocaust deniers. And that's why the book that I'm holding in my hand, We Got the Water, Tracing My Family's Path Through Auschwitz, is so vitally important and relevant. And it's written by Professor Jill Klein, a social psychologist on the faculty of Melbourne Business School at the University of Melbourne in Australia, a place I'd love to visit one day. And we welcome in Dr. Klein, who wrote this book and basically recounts the true story of the Klein family and her relatives, including her father, who also joins us, Gene Klein, who himself is a Holocaust survivor. So let me say hello first to Jill. How are you, Jill?
Good. How are you?
Fine. And let me say hello to your dad.
Hi there. How you doing?
I am fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
I got to tell you both. My son, at our synagogue several years ago, his Hebrew class was visited by a Holocaust survivor, and he had come. I mean, he just came away riveted, just riveted. And I know you both go around the world and talk about this. I want let's start maybe at the beginning. Jill, if you could just briefly talk about what led you to writing this and what the family went through, the basic abbreviated version of the family's story.
Okay, sure. Well, I was motivated to write it because I grew up, hearing these stories and asking lots of questions of my dad and his sisters. And I knew from hearing about what had happened to them that it really should be documented. It really should all be written down. So it's been a 15-year project because it's not like writing a novel. I mean, every sentence I had to make sure it fit with what actually happened to them. So it was a lot of work and took a lot of time, but I'm thrilled that I got it done. Basically, the story is that my dad and his family were in Hungary in 1944. That's when the Hungarian Jews were taken, because it appeared that the Hungarian Jews were safe, but then because Hungary was basically on the side of the Germans, and part of the deal was that the Jews stayed put. And then Hungary looked at switching sides in the last year of the war, and Germany realized what was happening, and they basically overran the country overnight. And so the Jews in Hungary went from being reasonably safe to not at all safe. And so my dad and his family, and his nuclear family was his mom and dad and his two older sisters, Lily and Oli, and they were rounded up and taken to Auschwitz with all the other Jews in their town. And my dad was in Auschwitz for a few weeks and then was shipped out to a slave labor camp where he was carrying very heavy steel rails for some railroad construction. And his sisters and mother actually got to stay together, and they worked in munitions factories where the work was relatively easier to do than what my father was doing, but it was still very rough.
Right.
And they were constantly getting bombed or the area was getting bombed by Allied bombers. So that was very tough for them. And then my grandfather, my dad's father, was actually killed upon arrival in Auschwitz.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the name of the book, and maybe people who haven't seen the book or held it don't understand. We Got the Water. And why don't you, Gene? Why don't you tell us what that means?
The We Got the Water.
We Got the Water. Well, this was a statement by my older sister Lily, and it was well known by the time the Hungarian Jews were taken to be killed that a lot of camps, extermination camps, they told the people they wanted to kill that you're going to be taking a shower, then we're going to feed you, and of course gas came out of the showers and killed you. And so when they were transferred from one location to another and they were told they're going to be taking a shower, of course everybody was frightened. But when they went into the shower room, water came out, and my older sister said, "We got the water," which was, we survived.
You were spared at that point, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know where to start, obviously, in a short interview with a Holocaust survivor. Yeah, first of all, how old are you, sir?
I was 16. Now I'm 85.
85. Okay, you sound great, and God bless you.
He's in good shape.
You sound like you're in real good shape, mentally, and if you say physically, I'll believe you.
Yep.
You know what interests me? One of the things that interests me is the gray papers. I wasn't aware of the gray papers. These were newspapers that had poems and stories mocking the Nazi guards that were written by the Jews of the Holocaust.
Well, so this was something that my Aunt Ollie and Aunt Lily did. So they worked in this munitions factory on the night shift, and on the day shifts, some POWs were working. And so the POWs were able to leave them little slips of paper that they could use. And they actually made diaries when they were in the camps, too.
Which helped you with the book.
Oh, definitely, definitely. But with the gray papers, what they did was they got other women to write poems, and they wrote poems, and they wrote these columns that were humorous, making fun of the guards or talking about their spring fashion and how they should be tailoring their gray striped dresses. Or they had the menu for the next week. You know, Monday will be potatoes with water, and Tuesday will be water with potatoes.
Well, how did they hide that from the Nazis?
Well, they didn't make it very public. They wrote it in their bunks in their barracks, and then they went around to the barracks on Sunday and read them. This is getting towards near the end of the war, and I don't think, the commandants of the camp, and so we're watching every move.
Right at that
made.
point, yeah. We're talking to Jill Klein and her father Gene Klein. Gene, a survivor of the Holocaust. Jill, the author of "We Got the Water: Tracing My Family's Path Through Auschwitz." Gene, what message when you talk to youngsters or to adults around the world? What message do you want to get out most? What do you want to leave them with when they come away from hearing you speak?
Basically, never give up. You find yourself in a situation, especially being a teenager, that it's really, you're torn away from your family, from your home, from your education, and you see death all around you, and it's so easy to just give in and give up, and then you die, and your troubles are over. But you really have to set yourself a goal to survive. And in my case, I had two goals, which I thought about every night before I went to sleep, exhausted, and every morning when I woke up to march out for the slave labor. And that was, I know my father is killed, and I have no idea where my mother and two sisters are. Suppose they survive and I die. How terrible it would be if they come home after the war and no father and no only son in the family. It would be awful. And the other thing was, if the Nazis kill me, they win. If I stay alive, I win. So I had to break this down on a daily, basis to deal with this horror, because it's just so awful to every time you wake up, you see all the dead people who died during the night.
Sure.
And you just have to keep fighting.
And Jill, briefly, your purpose in writing this. I mean, I know your sister's diaries, Lily's diaries, your aunt, I believe, are on display at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. Your purpose in writing this is, like you said at the beginning, to document it all and to have it there with the dwindling survivor population, right?
Well, that's right. And the other thing is that the fact that three siblings survived in one family was a very rare event.
Absolutely.
And when I started working on this, and actually until a year ago, all three of them were still alive. Unfortunately, my Aunt Lily died just before I published the book. But I felt like I was in a very unique position, that I had these three close family members,
right,
all still alive, all with fantastic memories.
No, well,
and that I needed to, take that opportunity to tell their story.
Well, folks, We Got the Water: Tracing My Family's Path Through Auschwitz. Jill Gabriel Klein is the author. And I, sir, both of you, but Gene, I wish you certainly all the best in a new year, health and happiness, and keep on being out there and telling the story. And you're doing a wonderful thing by doing that. And God bless you, sir.
Thank you so much, and I'm planning to do it for the next 50 years, although I doubt if I live that long.
Well, next time you're in New York, please look me up, Jill and Gene, and I'd love to have the honor of shaking your hands, both of you.
Oh, we would love to.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
My pleasure. Take care. That's
care.
Jill and